Hello guys, welcome back. So today I'm going to be talking about the alternate Series 5 of Doctor Who. Thank you to everyone who put their vote in. For a while it looked like I was going to be making the Series 9 of Doctor Who video, but a couple more votes went in and the Series 5 one just shot up to first place, so I'm going to be making that video today. Again, thank you to everyone who voted, and at the end of the video I'm going to be talking about another poll where you can decide once again what's the next alternate series I'll be talking about. But today we're going to be talking about Series 5 and what could have happened and what almost did happen. But without no further ado, let's get into the video and see what would have happened. Now, what's most crazy about this alternate series is the fact that it was so close to actually being made. For a while, David Tennant really did consider staying on for Series 5, and Stephen Moffat even pitched the idea of how it would work. It would definitely have been David Tennant's last series, but David Tennant did actually give it a long think, and it was just a yes away from being made. So if David Tennant said yes, then Doctor Who would have taken a very different course. Now, what this pitch was David Tennant, the 10th Doctor, would arrive in Amelia's garden in a very bad way. She'd feed him, but not fish fingers and custard. It'd be something else. So fish fingers and custard wouldn't actually exist. And she'd feed him and he'd go back to the TARDIS and regenerate. Now, years later, he returns in Amelia's life, and he has no recollection of the events. So throughout the series, we're wondering what goes on. It's not till episode 13, the finale, that we find out this was the Doctor at the end of the series. Now, of course, this might be ringing some bells. This is very similar to what happened in Series 6, and the reason it's so similar is Stephen Moffat didn't want to waste the idea, so he used it in the next series. What's interesting is the fact that Series 5 would have mostly stayed the same, but Series 6 and Series 4 specials would have changed a bit more. Now, staying with Series 5 for the moment, I feel like, again, the majority of it would have stayed the same except the opener and finale. But the whole crack in the wall sort of story arc running through Series 5, would they have gone with it? Now, they could on one hand have gone with it and it could have triggered the 10th Doctor's regeneration, but on the other hand, would they do the crack in the wall plus the whole mystery of the Doctor at the beginning of the series? They might not have gone with it. And whether they delayed it or didn't go with it at all, I feel like it would have changed a large part of Stephen Moffat's first half of his era. It would have also meant the loss of the 11th hour as we know it, at least. It would have had to be vastly changed, which I feel like would have been a disappointment, because I feel like a lot of people will agree that the 11th hour is a very solid episode, so it would have been a shame to lose it. Now, again, other than that, I don't think Series 5 would have been different. It would have been interesting having the 10th Doctor see River Song again, seeing as that was the incarnation that saw River Song die. It would have also been cool to see the Doctor against Silurians, and interesting to see the Doctor against the Paradigm Daleks and them getting away again like they did in the Daleks in Manhattan. So those would have been some interesting things to have seen in Series 5 with David Tennant, the 10th Doctor. But then other than that, again, I don't feel like Series 5 would have been too different. Looking at the TARDIS's interior, I feel like it would have made more sense to hold it off until the 11th Doctor came along, because for me it doesn't make sense for the TARDIS to crash land in Amelia's garden at what is meant to be the end of the series, and then it not change from there. So I feel like they should have continued David Tennant's TARDIS on in Series 5. But then again, Stephen Moffat might have wanted to do a whole refresh of the show, refresh literally everything except the Doctor itself, so he could have possibly started it from the beginning of Series 5, but then again, I feel like it would have made more sense for when the 10th Doctor regenerates, he sort of like explodes the TARDIS, and then we go from the new era TARDIS with the new Doctor. Also, it's not just the opener and the finale I feel like would have been different in Series 5, possibly the Christmas special as well. I feel like it would have had to been altered a lot more to be sort of a post-regeneration story, or possibly they might not have gone with it at all. Looking at Series 6 now, I feel like it would have been a lot different, and they would have had to change the whole death of the Doctor at Lake Silencio. So again, that wouldn't have happened, so they would have had to do a different sort of story arc throughout the series. Now, I would be worried about them changing The Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon, because it is one of my all-time favourite Doctor Who stories, and it's one of those rare, for me, 10 out of 10 episodes where it's literally perfect for me. So I'd be worried that if they had to tamper with the whole story arc, they'd have to tamper with the story itself. So again, I'd be really worried that they'd have to change it, or they would have had to change it, and then it wouldn't have been as good. So that's a concern I'd have if they went with David Tennant. Now, looking at the series itself, again, they wouldn't have been able to do the whole story arc mystery going through the series, so maybe here they could have possibly gone with the whole crack in the wall. But then again, it would have had to have been changed again, and it wouldn't have made sense for the crack in the wall to start here with Amelia in her bedroom, so we'd miss out on that. And again, I feel like that's a bit disappointing, because the whole crack in her wall when she's young in the dark, very creepy, I feel like you lose out on that. So yeah, if they did go with the crack in the wall from Series 6, we wouldn't have had it in Amelia's bedroom. So again, I don't think the whole crack in the wall story wouldn't have been as good, and then also it wouldn't have been as creepy either. Now going back and looking at Series 4 specials, even if David Tennant stayed on for Series 5, again, it would have affected the Series 4 specials as well, because Russell T Davies wouldn't be writing the 10th Doctor to be sort of like leaving at the end of the specials. Now, it would have probably meant that He Will Knock Full Times didn't actually happen. Now, again, that would have a knock-on effect on the other specials as well. So the Waters of Mars, the Doctor went into the Bowie base sort of confident that he isn't going to die there because of the whole He Will Knock Full Times. Now, if the Doctor didn't know about the prophecy, then if it didn't exist, then perhaps the Doctor wouldn't have gone back to the Bowie base and actually gone back to save him. So it could again have changed the Waters of Mars. Again, another solid episode which could have been heavily affected by this. Also, looking at the end of time, again, it wouldn't have been a regeneration story, so again, it would have had to have changed. But to change it and not have David Tennant regenerate, I feel like it wouldn't have given a sort of satisfactory ending to the RTD era, because we'd be saying goodbye to sort of the companions and the sort of story arcs throughout the RTD era, but we wouldn't be saying goodbye to the Doctor, so it wouldn't have felt like a whole ending to the RTD era. So again, I feel like David Tennant staying on for another series would have affected it negatively. And talking of goodbyes, when the 10th Doctor regenerates in Series 5, would he have gone back like he did at the End of Time Part 2 and say sort of goodbye to his companions? Now, it's sort of become a nice tradition for the Doctor to say goodbye to his companions. Of course, we had the 11th Doctor with Clara, and then Amy came to him in a vision. Then with the 12th Doctor, we had Bill, Nardole, and Clara come back. And then for the 13th Doctor, we had Yaz, and we had Graham, and we had Tegan and Ace and Kate. So we had sort of that. But would Stephen Moffat have gone with that for the 10th Doctor as well? Now, on one side, he might have wanted to still keep his era fresh and not have him go back to his previous companions, which I feel like as an audience we would have sort of we would have missed out, which would have been a shame. But then again, I can see why he wouldn't have done it if he chose not to, because he wants to keep his era fresh. So again, if the 10th Doctor stayed on, we could have had the possibility that he didn't say goodbye to his companions, which again would have been a shame, because I really do like it when the sort of companions come back and say goodbye. It's a nice little touch and great for the sort of like casual viewer, but also sort of like us fans as well. It's nice to see them come back and sort of just say goodbye. So again, if he didn't go with it, it would have been a shame. But then I can see why, if he didn't go with it, it would have sort of made sense to keep his era fresh. But then again, he might have gone with it, so we might not have missed out on it either way. But it is again a possibility that he couldn't have gone with it in the first place. It's not just Series 4 specials and Series 6 that would have had a knock-on effect, but I also feel like the future series would have had a knock-on effect themselves as well. I feel like the video I spoke about last week where Matt Smith stays on for another series, Series 8, I feel like would have been much more likely to have actually happened, because would he have really left at the end of Series 7, having only done 2 series? Then you've got to think about Pete Capaldi. What would have happened with Pete Capaldi? Would he have left at the end of Series 10, or would Stephen Moffat decided to stay another year to 2018 and done Pete Capaldi's 3rd series? Then what would have happened with Jodie Whittaker in the 13th Doctor era? Would it have been delayed by a year? So as you can see, it does have a heavy sort of knock-on effect, and I feel like it does affect Doctor and sort of delay it in a way. So again, that's another thing to sort of think about. It's not just Series 5 and the previous and future series, it's also the future series in the far future to come as well. One good thing about David Tennant staying on for Series 5 is I feel like it would have acted as a bridge for the casual viewer. Now, if you ask anybody who's watched modern Doctor 2, have they watched Doctor 2, and they say yeah, you can almost guarantee it's always, oh, it was when David Tennant was the Doctor, I stopped watching when David Tennant wasn't the Doctor. So I feel like if he stayed on for Series 5, it would have acted as a bridge, and the casual viewer would have been more likely to have stayed on, at least till the end of Amy and Rory, because they would have got used to their characters. Whereas because David Tennant left and it was sort of a new Doctor, a whole new era, it was sort of a cut-off point for a lot of people. So I feel like him staying would have acted as a bridge. So I feel like it would have been a good way in that sort of sense to have David Tennant stay on, because again it would have acted as a bridge for a more casual viewer, and again they would have been more likely to stay on and watch Doctor 2 throughout the Stephen Moffat era as well as the RTD era. It would have also been nice to see a modern Doctor sort of break the 3 series curse. Now, younger me would have loved the idea of David Tennant staying on for another series, and I feel like I would have adjusted to the change better, but me nowadays, I do feel like it was better that David Tennant didn't stay on for Series 5. So for me personally, I would have liked to have seen it in a way, because it's always interesting to sort of explore the alternate series and also see how it would have sort of come about and what it would have been like. So yeah, I would have been interested to see it, and I feel like it would have acted as a bridge, which would have been a positive thing. And also, if they'd done it right, the sort of Series 5 mystery of the Doctor at the beginning of the series could have been really interesting. So in that sense, I feel like it would have been really interesting. I would have liked to have seen it. But on the whole, I actually feel like it's better that David Tennant didn't stay on for another series. Again, the show needs a soft reboot every now and again. I feel like if he stayed on, it wouldn't have given it the soft reboot that we sort of got at the beginning of the Stephen Moffat era. So again, I feel like it was probably better that David Tennant didn't actually stay on. But again, I would have liked to explore the sort of mysteries, and then it would have been good as a bridge for the casual viewer. And as mentioned earlier, if he did stay on, it could have heavily affected stories like The Waters of Mars, The 11th Hour, and then also the Series 6 opener, which I feel like are great stories. So again, it could have affected them negatively. But that's just my thoughts. What do you think? How would you think Series 5 would have been different? And would you have liked to have seen this series? Let me know in the comments below. And like last week, I'm going to be letting you guys decide on what's the next alternate series you'd like me to do. Make sure you subscribe and get your vote in. This time I'm going to be letting you guys have a week to do it, because I'll be doing a different video next week, but then the week after, whatever's got the highest vote I'm going to be doing. So make sure you put your vote in and make sure you're subscribed. And thank you to all my new subscribers as well. I've seen a huge surge in subscribers once again, and I'm so incredibly grateful, so thank you so much. It's literally less than 95 subscribers till I get to 500, until I'll be making this video of how I made my TARDIS and how you can make your own. And if you're a regular viewer as well, you would have noticed a new addition to my TARDIS, the light on the top, which is another finishing sort of piece I've added as well. So I can't wait to show you guys how I've done it and how you can make your own. So if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed. But thank you for watching the video, I hope you enjoyed, and hopefully see you in my next video soon. Thank you all for watching and take care.